The Washington Post is undergoing layoffs. This is in the midst of what's happening at the New York Times, which saw its first employee walkout in decades. And there's a dispute that's happening right now between the union, who represents journalists, but also just workers at the New York Times in general on wages, because you see things like, executives got $150 million in stock buybacks to the New York Times, and what the pay increases are that they're asking for amount to $15 million. But the New York Times is doing well in terms of its subscriber base. It's been shockingly increasing a lot. Not so much at the Washington Post, but still. This reaction from CEO Fred Ryan, when he's announcing that layoffs are going to begin at the first quarter of next year, is so arrogant and tone deaf. I had to play it.
Into a town hall, into a grievance session for the I'm sorry.
You just Brad, you talking about positions getting eliminated. What are you going to do to protect people's jobs? Are they going to be treated like the magazine staffers were?
We'll have more information as we move forward. Thank you very much.
And how are you decided?
You seem to be disrespecting.
That is just the contempt that he displays for his own employees there. That I think is instructive.
It's the relationship between capital and labor.
Yeah, it's especially stark when you it's a room full of journalists and to not expect there to be any questions after. I'm not taking any.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just have an announcement. I won't be taking any questions. But I could understand why Washington Post is probably. I can't understand why New York Times subscribers would be going up, but I can understand why people wouldn't subscribe to the WaPo. At the end of the day, people associate with Jeff Bezos. They associate with being owned by even more billionaires, and so why would you provide more money to that kind of system if you even have if you only have one option? Not to mention that inflation is causing people not to have as much money to read terrible op-eds.
Yeah, well, but that's the point, though, is that Bezos purchasing the Washington Post was supposed to be this benevolent billionaire saving journalism.
Effective altruist.
Right, and I'm joking, but I literally heard those arguments, and how this was going to save the Washington Post because he has unlimited resources, and yeah, it might influence some of their coverage, but overall it'll be okay. Doesn't insulate them from layoffs. And if people didn't hear what he said there, he said, we're not going to turn the town hall into a grievance session and then peace.
I'm turning off the comments for this op-ed.
So you might have lost your job, probably did, but don't cry about it to me.
I think this is really clarifying as far as who's celebrating this and for why, and how they're trying to disguise the fact that they are cheering on capitalists and the bosses and cheering on firing of workers. And it's all this cultural sort of I think fascist sort of class politics here, where Chris Rufo here, the boomers who enabled the cultural capture of the Washington Post now tell the horde of disgruntled, narcissistic millennials, the employees at Washington Post is what he means there, that they won't turn the town hall into a grievance session. Too late, bud. Your whole paper is a grievance session. He acts like he's criticizing the leadership there, the guy that says too late, you tune your whole thing, but all of his vitriol is aimed at the people who are actually getting fired.
The employees. Here. This is the same thing that we discussed with what was it, Elon Musk? Matt Taibbi, saying that it's the liberal middle management, or someone who was responding to it. One of the right wing pundits who was responding to it.
Oh, Shapiro. Yeah, that's Shapiro.
Sorry.
And, one of Taibbi's sort of sweaty group chat mates, Michael Tracy, was celebrating workers at Twitter getting fired, saying, they actually earn, close to six figures. And as if that should matter. That workers, that according to a fucking blogger, these people get higher wages than apparently their productivity demands there. And we should applaud a billionaire like Elon Musk coming in and trimming the fat is ludicrous that anybody should be supportive of that shit.
Well, they have to hide their anti-worker stances and just like critiques about the aesthetic or about millennials or about liberal culture. And then you bear, as you say, Matt, like you just
They
look
work
a
for
little
venture
closer and this
capitalists.
is what this is about.
They all work for venture capitalists. They're probably on the take.
And also, it's also sheerly a branding exercise for like the right wing who operate outside of our traditional media outlets to pretend like there's some really stark difference between their politics and the politics you're going to read in the Washington Post. You know, except for the ones who are like just promoting just full-throated fascism at this point. You know, the politics of the WaPo, the politics of the Wall Street Journal, the politics of the New York Times are basically the same as the politics of like Ben Shapiro. That's why they've been profiled by them. They're basically the same, you know, at least if not the same, they operate within the same spectrum. But a part of their big branding, same with the Joe Rogans, is like, oh no, we're heterodox thinkers who are going to tell you things you won't hear anywhere else, including in like the Washington Post and New York Times, and that's our value. And so they have to point to some kind of like big ideological schism between themselves and these like, you know, conservative publications, obviously, at least pro-status quo publications, and in order to like justify why people should be reading their stuff versus the Washington Post. But, you know, they're all in the same bucket.
It's funny because when you brought up Twitter, Matt, I've seen so many tweets from like VCs with it's like this copy and paste thing too, where they're all like, oh, I've been hearing from a lot of startup and tech CEOs saying how, oh, wow, I saw Elon Musk fire like 80% of the Twitter workforce and everything is still working at Twitter. I'm going to start doing that at my company. I mean, have these people used Twitter since Elon Musk came on board? Like there are glitches and things breaking all the time. And also they seem to be under the belief that everyone working at Twitter was just like a developer and working on like the tech or something. Why do you think Elon Musk's lost so many advertisers? Because they've completely gutted the sales department, the like client relations department. You hear from advertisers who've come out publicly in like articles saying, yeah, we didn't leave Twitter because of any politic reasons. We left Twitter because our contacts left and we had no one to manage our campaign, and we did spend millions of dollars there. We're not spending money there now if no one's going to make sure it's money well spent. I mean, Elon Musk is losing money probably because he fired a bunch of people.
Yeah, these people just have a fundamental misunderstanding with how, well, a lot of things work, but how Twitter works. So, you know, how Twitter, the company, makes their money, not how people who run podcasts or like pseudo legitimate publications, like, you know, newsletters make their money on Twitter. Like Twitter, from probably the customer standpoint, not the user standpoint, it's unusable. You know, unless you happen to be Tesla, you know, whatever Tesla person is responsible for like signing off on sending money over to Twitter for more Tesla ads.
Have you seen all the guys who like take out ads?
Yeah.
Who don't have like any sort of media project at all? They're just dudes with Twitter profiles that take out ads saying, Elon's doing a really good job and I really support him on free speech.
Yeah.
I don't think that you can supplant the advertiser revenue on Twitter with subscriber and cuck revenue. It just isn't going to work. Like
if they're even paying,
Hashtag cuckbucks.
If they didn't receive like a freebie from Elon Musk saying, "Oh yeah, as long as you tweet something nice about me, we'll give you like $100 to promote it." Yeah.
We're all living
all
in
the ads
prisms of like these billionaires' egos. That's what Meta's doing with the metaverse as well. It's just like, how can I create a product that is just a manifestation of my insane like opinion of myself?
I think that's partially. I mean, definitely Meta has, and Facebook. I'm gonna keep saying Facebook. I'm not gonna say Meta. I remember that all the time because it's always gonna be Facebook to me.
Hold the line, Brandon.
You have to, look. You have to take a stance about some things. If you fall for anything, you'll fall for everything, or whatever the state.
Where we go on, we go all is what you need to say.
Probably.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. But no, I mean, I think a lot of the tech industry is suffering from a shrinkage because, there's only so much room for social media companies to grow. And Meta and the metaverse was supposed to be like the next logical evolution of like social media. The same way VR is supposed to be the next logical like step for gaming. But like people don't like that stuff. People don't want to do metaverse. People don't want to. I mean, anyone who did want to do it is probably already doing it with Second Life and has some sort of ideological disagreement with doing it with Facebook. And the rest of us don't like it. And so like these companies have done this before with like the Google Glass thing, like
Yep.
rolling out things that people don't necessarily want in an effort to like make their company look it's still growing year over year and like doing new things, when in reality I think we're just going to see a lot of shrinkage in the tech industry, you know.
Well, I was literally just having a conversation about this with someone who works in tech last night, and they were saying that it's so clear that their company is only being set up to be acquired as opposed to create a product. And I think there are a lot of tech companies like that right now, which is why the bubble is about to burst, and we're seeing valuations of Meta, apps like Uber, Lyft, and stuff fall off a cliff because they can't turn a profit to it, and also, but other smaller companies are really just trying to get bought so the people that have created them can cash out. And that's the dream that's being sold about Silicon Valley.
Any of these dumb asshole VCs that you see, if you look at their sort of career, they did some like dumb thing in like 2008 that got bought by Google or got bought by one of these places, and now they have a whole bunch of money to f around with and play dissident on Twitter for 18 hours a day.
Yeah, I mean that was the dream for every, you hate to say it, but like Stanford dropout in the mid, let's say 2007 on, like that they would start a little like tech startup Silicon Valley style, do a little like incubator 10-person company to create some sort of AI or some sort of like wearable tech device, and then they would be bought out for a few $1 million by like Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos, and then like maybe the CEO of that company would get like a cushy job at like the VP of wearable tech inside Google, and they would never produce anything.
Yeah.
But there's just not as much money to slosh around now. Even like look at Netflix. Look how many crappy things and also great things Netflix made when they were just throwing money around trying to corner the market. But now there's just a natural shrinkage of these markets that have been growing exponentially for the past like 15 years, and no one could have imagined for some reason that like social media companies would reach a natural limit for how much people want to be on them.